Hi guys, so you always hear me talk about how to legally protect your business, and we often talk about website legal pages, ADA website legal compliance, coaching contracts, and so forth, right? But today I want to focus on my freelancer friends, right? The people who really help grow our business. And so if you are a freelancer, or if you're a client who's looking to hire a freelancer to help grow your business, then this video is for you because we're going to cover everything from what exactly is a freelance contract, why it's so important, the three big legal issues that it helps prevent, some stories, and also my own dad's story where he got sued by a freelancer. And then I'm going to share how you can create a freelance contract template that actually protects you and your business legally. So real quick, what exactly is a freelance contract? So anytime that you're going to offer any kind of freelance services, it means that you're not an actual employee. You're working as an independent contractor for the client for a specific project. For example, you could be getting paid to write blog posts for them. You could be offering freelance writing services, graphic design, social media marketing, anything else that you're doing, SEO work. Again, you're operating in a freelance capacity if you're not the employee of the client. So in all of these different scenarios, you would use what's called a freelance contract. It's also called an independent contractor agreement. And this is the contract that ensures both you and your client are on the same page for the work that you're performing for them, right? As far as the compensation. And then we're going to go into some of the key things that you must include in the contract to protect yourself. But in a nutshell, that's exactly what a freelance contract is. Now, the best way that I can demonstrate that how crucial or how important this contract is for you as a client, as well as a freelancer offering your own services, is by sharing my own dad's experience. So many of you know my story. Before I became a lawyer, I watched my own dad's business get sued by a freelancer that he had hired to help grow his business. My dad was only in his second year of business. It's not that he was making a lot of money. He was still a fairly new entrepreneur. But then we got hit with this massive lawsuit that was $90,000. So you can imagine everything stopped for us as a family because it was humble beginnings, and I had to also drop things and just kind of help dad navigate through the lawsuit, work with his lawyers, and it was devastating to say the least. But this could have been all avoided if my dad had used a freelance contract with this person that he had hired. He just didn't have any contract in place. So that goes to show that why it's so important to have a contract, because otherwise it just leads to misunderstandings. The freelancer may think that you hired them to do this, and then the client may think I expected this, and then there's no meeting of the minds, right? Then another example, I also had recently one of my customers who booked a coaching call or a consult with me online, and she had similar issue where from a freelancer's point of view now. So she did all this work for her client and spent, hours and weeks, and then didn't get the full payment. So she only got like half payment because now the client says that they didn't do the work as per their agreement, and there was no agreement in place. It was all a verbal, communication over the phone that they agreed upon. But still, the client is now refusing to make the payment, and she did not use a contract either. So again, both of these situations, whether you're a freelancer or whether you're a client, you both have an obligation to each other to protect yourself, right? And to make sure that both parties are on the same page. And you do that with the help of a freelance contract. Now, let's briefly talk about the three big issues that by working as a lawyer for over a decade that I have seen freelancers and clients face. Number one issue is always about the scope of work, the services that you're providing, right? Like the client may think that you agreed to do X amount of work, and you as a freelancer may think that you've delivered everything that you both agreed upon. But because there is not an actual contract specifying and outlining what you two agreed upon, it just results into these ugly back and forth disputes, and things get nasty, and nobody wants that relationship to go sour and the business to suffer. But that is what ends up happening. The second issue always comes up about compensation, right? So a freelancer may be waiting on a client to pay, and the client is just like taking their sweet little time, or they're just refusing to make full payment. And again, payment ends up being another big issue. So you want to always make sure that in your contract, you're very clear about the payment terms, whether you're going to accept upfront payment, 50% or not, whatever the method of payment is. Again, you want to always clarify so that both you and your client are on the same page. And then the third issue that also comes up, which a lot of times freelancers don't think about or clients don't think about until after the fact, has to do with the ownership of the intellectual property. So, just because you as the freelancer created this beautiful work or piece of work for the client, does that mean now you're the owner? Or does that mean that just because you did the work for the client is now the legal owner of that work? Again, this is a very important legal provision that we see all kinds of lawsuits and disputes over. So you want to very clearly have that conversation with the client. If the client says that, hey, I'm paying you for example, writing a book for me, but I want to have the legal rights, right, to be able to publish the book, and I want to be able to sell, and it's my legal book. It's not yours just because you wrote it. So again, you need to clarify that in the freelance contract to transfer the legal rights. And I give you all of these legal provisions, and we're going to dive into them a little bit more, but I give you everything. I give you like 25 plus legal clauses in my freelance contract template that I put together so that you don't have to waste your valuable time trying to figure out like, oh, what should my contract include? You don't even have to worry about how to put together the contract. Everything is done for you. All you do is simply fill in the highlighted blanks of the template as instructed, and within 15 minutes, you have a contract that is comprehensive, that actually protects you, and you can begin using it confidently with your client, or if you are the client, then with your freelancer. Now, every once in a while, I will have a freelancer that reaches out to me. They just started their freelance business, and so they're a little bit intimidated by the concept of contracts, right? They think that, oh, if I use a contract, it's going to scare my client away, or it's going to intimidate them or overwhelm them, and they may not want to work with me. Well, that's not the right mindset. But before I give you another solution, a workaround, and that's something that they asked me like, well, is it okay for me to just use email? And before I answer that, if you are enjoying this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel so that we can help more people. All right, so if you're one of those people that are a little bit intimidated by contracts because you haven't gotten into the habit of using them yet, then why don't you get your feet wet by using what's called a letter of agreement. So I give you this letter of agreement absolutely free as a bonus. It's $150 value. So if you hire any lawyer to put it together for you, it's going to cost you like $500. You know that. So you get it absolutely free as one of my bonuses in this legal bundle that I put together for freelancers and clients. So if you are a freelancer and you're a client, you get 3 legal templates. You get a confidentiality agreement, you get a freelance contract, and you get another contract, and you also get 5 additional bonuses. And as part of those 5 bonuses, you get this letter of agreement. Now, what exactly is it? A letter of agreement is basically an informal contract. So it's not as detailed as, let's say, a freelance contract would be, but it still is an agreement, but it's in the informal way of as a letter, right? So in other words, let's say you and your client hop on a Zoom call or a phone call, and you guys agreed upon whatever the work and the payment and everything that you agreed upon. So all those essential terms, you would just plug into this letter template that I put together and send it over to the client for agreement and signature, electronic signature, and you're good to go. So it's not as lengthy, it's not as long, it's short, but it is still an agreement, it's still a contract, it's still binding, but at least it will solve that issue of like, oh, I don't want to scare off my client, but it will still protect you and your client. So this way you still have a clear agreement of what you both agreed upon. Does that make sense? If you have any questions, please comment below. I'd be happy to help you. And also everything that we're sharing today in this video, the freelancers legal bundle, as well as just the freelance contract if you don't want the bundle deal. Although the bundle deal is a steal because you get 3 legal templates, 5 bonuses, plus this letter of agreement, which is not available to purchase separately. You get all of that in the freelancers legal bundle, and it's all discounted. So all of those links will be in the description of this video so that you can take advantage of them. All right, so now let's talk about like the 8 really important legal provisions that you must have in your freelance contract or even in your letter of agreement, right? So number 1 has to do with the services that you're providing. It's obvious you want to clearly define the scope of work, so that way there is no misunderstanding, no disputes between you and the client. The number 2 has to do with your compensation, right? The payment schedule, like whether you're accepting 50% upfront or later, or if there's a retainer based, whatever the fee arrangement is between you and the client, you need to clearly specify that and even take it a step further and clarify as to the method of payment, right? What are the different ways that you can accept payment? And then the third thing from a client's perspective, this is very important, is that original content. So let's say I am paying you to write a book for me or write a blog post for me. Obviously, I want to make sure that the content that I'm paying you to write for me is original, right? You're not just plagiarizing or copying someone else. So that's another important clarification that you need to add as part of the scope of work or services to be provided. Now, the fourth thing that you should also include is a late payment fee. So this is just another added incentive for the client to make the payment on time. So otherwise they know that they're going to incur a late fee. So the fifth thing that you have to include is a cancellation or a refund policy. So what happens if you both are not happy working with each other and you want to be able to terminate the contract in between? So again, you need to clarify all of that in the contract as to what will happen to the payment that the client already paid you. Is there a refund policy? Is there not? Number 6 is super important. So if a client is paying you to create any kind of content for them, obviously they want to be able to have legal rights to them. Sometimes they may not care, but other times they will. For example, if they are paying you to write a book or create a logo or some sort of anything else, graphic design, right? They might want to be able to have full ownership of that design or full ownership of that book that you wrote for them so that they can freely do whatever it is that they want to do with that content. But you being the creator, meaning they hired you, but it's still you're being the creator, you have the original copyright to that content. And in order to transfer it over to the client, you need to have those legal provisions in the freelance contract. So this way, later on, there's no dispute as to, hey, who owns the ownership of this content that you technically put together. Now, number 7 that you always have to include, especially from a client's perspective. So whenever I am hiring freelancers, and I hire so many freelancers all the time, whether it's virtual assistants, graphic designers, blog post writers, you always want to make sure that you are including confidentiality provisions, because what happened, I'll give you an example. So what happened to one of my customers is that he hired a virtual assistant, and obviously he trusted this person, and he ended up giving her access to all the things behind the scenes and his customer data and so forth. So this virtual assistant basically ended up stealing my client's business and ended up becoming a competitor. So because there was no confidentiality agreement, there was no agreement whatsoever. Again, there was no legal leg to stand on for this customer who lost thousands of dollars this way. So you always want to make sure that you are not just protecting your business secrets with that confidentiality agreement, but also your customer data and your client data, because we have strict privacy laws around, maintaining customer data, and so many companies get into legal trouble if they are not securing and if they don't have protocols and procedures in place to protect their customers' data. So if you want to learn more about privacy policies and what you need for your website, definitely check out this video where I walk you through the 3 legal pages that you need to have. But now going back to the eighth thing that I want you to include in a freelance contract. Now, this one is very important for my freelancer friends, because if you are new to freelancing, then obviously you want to build your business and you want to be able to display the deliverables for the client on your website, in your portfolio. So you need to have a legal provision that allows you to do that legally, because the client may not be happy with you showing their work to the whole public, right? So in order for you to get those legal rights, you need to have what's called a portfolio use and rights to display language, a paragraph built into the contract, which freely gives you the ability to be able to showcase your work that you're doing for clients in order to get new clients. Does it make sense? If you have any questions, again, comment below and let me know if you have a proper freelance contract that you are using. If not, then once again, I encourage you to definitely look into my freelance contract template. We only covered honestly 8 of those important legal provisions out of the 25 plus that I give you in a properly drafted legal contract put together by a lawyer. So definitely take a look at that, grab that template. It's going to, I promise you, it's going to really, really make things super simple for you, easy, fast, and you won't have to worry about like not having legal provisions to protect you and your client. And if you would like to save more money, then I encourage you to look into my freelancers legal bundle, because once again, that's a much better value for the money, and it gives you not just one, but it gives you 3 essential legal contracts that freelancers and clients need, and I personally use them as well in my business. And you also get 5 incredible bonuses. So it's a steal. I will link to everything below in the description. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Thank you so much for watching my video. And if you have any questions, let me know, and I will see you guys next time.